Okay, so hopefully I am live. I am just going to tweet out to say that I am in fact live again. Hopefully I am live. We'll see. Yeah, so I think my internet connection out here is a bit dodgy, so I will have to keep an eye on whether I stay connected. Yeah, I want to try and get as much done as I can in the next couple of weeks, so yeah, let me just tweet this out and then I'll just start. And then hello in the chat, can you let me know if everything seems to be okay? For some reason my microphone decided it didn't want to. Audio's fine, but it's a bit choppy from time to time. Yeah, I think the internet connection out here is for some reason gone particularly bad recently, and I'm wondering if it's got something to do with basically we've fitted a new PVC door to the garage, and I wonder if the metal or something's not right. I'm just gonna have to persevere, I think, and hopefully get a little bit of a video out. Let me just tweet this. But yeah, we'll just persevere, I think. I might have to do a bit of editing in the on the video just to cut all this out. So yes, hello everyone. Sorry for a bit of a delayed start. Technical issues. So everything seems to be working now, apart from the connection speed. So we'll just go with it. So today we are hopefully going to get all the wiring done to the point where, yeah, so the wiring should be done today. Now we've started a little bit late, we'll just see how we get on. I know that video looks really choppy, but we'll see. So yeah, so let's just switch over to this cam. So I actually wanted to go over a couple of things to start with. So last stream, which is sort of an extra stream, I spoke about the wiring and how I found the colours maybe were not correct, and so I changed the wiring to this, which is more of a standard kind of setup. Just to help with the stream, I am going to turn the audio off for today. Or not the audio, but the music. Hello Ed's 3D shop. Hello to Germany. So yeah, so basically I changed that. However, I also put a message out on Twitter to say, what's everyone's opinion? And if there was a bit of a mixed bag. A few people were like, yeah, colours could be better choice of colours. We weren't switching both live and neutral, etc. But interestingly, I had one person, Jacob from Construct 3D, who's a UK based company. He kindly said, or he posted a message saying he uses those colors on his wiring, and actually there's a really good reason why. These colors apparently help people with visual impairment or on colour blindness, these colours provide a better contrast for identification than these, and that's the reason that they use it. So I thought that was quite interesting. Yeah, OBS looks like it's going to be connecting and reconnecting, so we'll see how we get on. So I thought that was quite interesting, and as I said in the stream, this did work. So it wasn't like what was provided was wrong, but I wanted to clarify that actually in some cases the use of these colors is appropriate and does work. So yeah, that's something to be aware of. I've changed them, so for me it doesn't matter. So that was the first thing, so I'll just get rid of those. And the next thing I wanted to just mention, so I've had obviously in between streams to do a few things, and so the first thing, I managed to put one of the fans in, one of the part cooling fans into the tool head completely the wrong way around. Well, not completely the wrong way around. The fan was pointing outwards, but it wasn't actually pointing downwards. And I noticed that when I was doing some other bits that I'll show you in a second, the fan wasn't all the way in the housing. So it turns out that basically, yeah, that was the reason. I had not turned the fan the right direction. So luckily I noticed that, changed that direction, and it went more or less straight in, and now sits in the actual housing better. So that was the next thing. And then the last thing before we actually get started, so I'd rather stick to what you have now, the official color coding for most of Europe. Yes. So, you know, the point I made to Fysetc when I fed that information back was that, you know, the information is in the Voron manual. It's not like they have to do anything special. I guess from their point of view, because they don't want to have to make kits for multiple regions, they sort of do their thing, or the colors that they're using, and obviously they provide the wiring diagram to tell you where to plug things in. So it's not like you've got to guess what these colors do. So I can understand why they've done it, but I've changed it, and as you say, you'd rather have it as a color coding standard. So yeah, so this bracket, which is the one that's linked to by Fysetc, is actually the old umbilical mod bracket. So what that basically means is that we were using an old version. However, the hardware that Fysetc supplies, which is this hex pillar, bolt, nut, whatever they want to call it, doesn't work with the new STL that's available for the new version. So basically the 0.2 version of this bracket. So I've swapped this out. So this is 18mm long, and what we actually need is a 20mm one. So you can either print the actual printed spacers that Voron provide, which are 20.2mm, like just a little bit extra, or I just happen to have some 20mm hex pillars, so I've used those. So yeah, so I think that's what I wanted to talk about before we get started. And today really is just a matter of putting things together and plugging things in. So let me grab the printer over. And what you can see is that I have gone ahead, and what we would probably be better off doing is actually putting this on its front. And if I just put it there. So this is the new bracket, because the 0.2 actually has mounting on the tool head And then there's 2 mounting points on the carriage as well that goes on the linear rail. So they want you to basically secure it in 4 places, whereas this supplied mount didn't do that. So all I've gone ahead and done is, in the last stream, I got to the point where I'd wired the hot end and put everything together, and everything was moving okay. I hadn't wired things into this PCB just yet because I wanted to add some sequin LEDs, which again you would have seen in the last stream. So those are now wired in to some very thin wires, and I'm hoping that they'll be suitable. They should be. There's no reason why they won't. But if I need to change them, I can. So this area is basically done. We're wired in. We've sort of managed the cables a little bit. Yeah, we should be good to go. So what we need to do today basically is everything in the back here. So if I lay that down, try and get it in a sort of a central spot, just make sure I don't squash any wires. So a couple of things that I've changed. So let me just grab those. So the kit comes with basically a piece of black trunking, which is this, and this is fine. This will do what you need it to do. This will sit basically in the middle, and then the cables can come up through the bottom and the top and then out where you need them. However, I will be putting on a clipper expander on this printer. So rather than stick this on and then have to find somewhere to put the clipper expander, there's actually a mod on Printables that is, again, so we've got our wire channel, and then the top that will go on top of that actually has a place for a clipper expander. So rather than try and change this later, I'm just gonna go with it straight away. So I think the first thing we ought to do is get this stuck to the back panel, and I'm just going to use some of the VHB tape that was supplied with the kit, and then stick this on. Let's just move these cables out of the way for a second. I think what I want to do is basically just sort of get it roughly in the middle and on the bottom, and then just stick it down. And that should give us plenty of room to put in cables and whatever. And then obviously we'll be putting the PCB in, which goes up the top here. So again, whoop, wrong way around. So that will go into the back like that. And then we'll have all of our wires coming down and into where they need to go. So yeah, let's go start by sticking this on and hope that we don't have to take this off because it won't come off. We're not going to be blocking any mounting holes, so we'll be able to get those off if we need to. This is purely just going to stick this wire channel to the back of the printer basically. And if I can actually get this tape off. It's being a little bit stubborn at the moment. There we go. So this can go basically either way up. There's no orientation on this. Hello, Bruno. So I'm just going to stick it basically roughly in the middle and towards the bottom, and then maybe just a little bit up, just so we're not touching anything. So we'll stick that down. And then, as I said, obviously our clipper expander will sit on the top when we need to. So we'll just push that down for a second. Obviously we can't push from the other side, but let's just make sure that that is stuck down. And then I think what I want to do is also install, so we won't worry about the lid for the moment, install the umbilical mod PCB so that that's in there and we can start feeding cables down. So what you can also do with this is use this cover piece, and this has got a cutout on one side which goes on the side that's got the solder on, and so basically that will sit on top and you'll see that from the inside of the printer. So I think that's what we're going to do. So let me open the manual up and just see what hardware we need. And if anyone's got any questions, feel free to post in the chat. Now this probably actually won't have screw lengths because it's not sort of officially part of the manual. So I think I had decided on the 8mm. Let's have a look. Yeah, I think 8mm should be fine. And what I'm also going to do, so the wires for the hot end, so obviously we use our 14 pin cable from the tool head to this PCB, and then we have to wire in all of our things back. So this is for our hot end. Now I have soldered one of these boards myself before, and I actually put this on the other way round so that the connections were going in this side. Now apparently that was wrong. However, this doesn't make any sense to me because it's right up against the back of the extrusion. You can't use wire ferrules because they don't fit, so you have to basically put bare wire in. Now Fysetc had actually tinned the end, so I've cut that back. Yeah, I've cut that back and restripped it. So I'm just going to install these wires first before we put this in, because otherwise we won't be able to get to them. So let me just get this screwdriver and I'll put these wires in. But I think if I was to be soldering this board myself, I would actually put it the other way around, because the other printer that I've got one of these in, there's plenty of room. Let me just try and work out which way this has got to go. There's plenty of room for a wire ferrule with the connector the other way around. So that's what I'd do. What's Ed saying? Looks very clean. And it should be so. You don't really have much space there. You know you don't. Now obviously I've got my other V0. Just want to check that I'm not crushing the and that, it's not too bad, but yeah, it can be a little bit messy to try and keep all these wires managed and looking somewhat clean. But that's definitely where boards like this help. This is definitely something that I would consider to be almost essential. That and clipper expander. It's one of the first things that I recommend people use when they're looking to add other thermistors or controlled LEDs or Nevermore fans or whatever. So let's get this board installed. So this basically will sit this way round at the top here, and these wires will sit in this channel, and you can see already that I'm having to sort of bend these wires to fit, and I'm just not sure that I like that, but it is what it is. We have to go with it for now. So yeah, they'll just sit in there like that while I get this other screw in. Which will be easier said than done. Let me get a pair of tweezers, might help. There we are. There we go. So what we'll do, we'll just try and visually line this up. It's not sort of essential that we get it in any particular place. We will obviously have a back panel that goes over this. So if we can get it at least flush with the drives, then we should be good. So those two cables do nicely fit and sit into there. And then I'll show you from the top what that looks like. That is what we'll see from the inside of the printer. So we've got our space for, and you can't see, space for the chamber thermistor. So that's actually on the board already. So yeah, that should be good to go. So we can start wiring that up. Clipper expander, could you explain a little bit about it? Yeah, so basically the clipper expander is, as you say, a secondary, or in this case this will be the third MCU that we add. And basically what it is it's a little board, little circuit board that has, like I say, the MCU, so it has to be connected to the Raspberry Pi. And then what this board does, because it's treated by Clipper as a second MCU, you can then plug in extra things. So these two ports here are thermistors, so you can have up to 2 extra thermistors. These 3 pins here are for NeoPixels, or actually I use them in my other V0 as a servo. This pin on the end here actually is what provides power to those. So if you wanted to drive NeoPixels, you'd obviously have a 5-volt supply go there. Or if you want something a little bit higher, you can have separate power from your, other than your 24 volts in. So that's your 24 volts in. You've then got these 4 controllable MOSFETs. So you can have fans, other lights, so just normal LED lights, motors maybe, or as in, well, I'm not sure what else you could have on there, but you can have other things on these, and they're all controllable. We've got an I2C, is it I2C? IC2, whatever it is, 4-pin connector here. So you could have a display run off that. I have a display run off my other one. So yeah, it's basically an extra MCU that provides more specific outputs. So yeah, that's really handy. So the next thing I think we want to do is have a look. Actually, what we'll do, we'll plug in everything that goes into the umbilical mod. So one of the things I also need to talk about is, because I'm running mine a little bit differently, I've had to change some of the wires around. So I'll show you that. So where is it? So if you remember when we did the unboxing, there was a cable, like, well, there was this cable, but we actually had multiple cables in, and this is one way to connect the Raspberry Pi to the controller board through UART. I'm not doing that. I'm using USB. So I've put this down to just 2 wires. So this is going to be what powers the Raspberry Pi from the control board, which means I took some wires out of here. So the wires I took out, 2 of them I've used to create a cable that's going to be our chamber thermistor. So even though there's a thermistor on the PCB, Fysetc don't provide a cable for it. Don't know why. Maybe it's just an oversight. So that's the first cable I've created with those 2 wires. So let's plug that in. We'll plug these in as we go, and then we'll know that they're plugged in, and we'll cable management cable in a minute. The next cable I created with those spare wires. So this is something you could do if you don't want to use UART. You can actually get a bit more functionality. So this wire is going to be connected to the X end stop port, which on a V0.2 is not used because we have sensorless homing. So I've wired the Sequin LEDs, which are in the tool head, to the X end stop connector on the tool head, which will connect to this connector, and then these. So what I plan to do is connect these to a spare PWM pin and a 5-volt pin, and that will be where the BL Touch would plug in on this control board. Obviously we're not using the BL Touch in here, so we can use those pins. So what you have to do is obviously just get your polarity right with LEDs. So I hopefully have got that figured out, and they're going to be on there. So next cable we've got, or the next couple of cables we've got, are fan connectors. So fan 0 is our part cooling fans, and we have 2 of those, but they are joined on the toolhead PCB and come back to just 2 cables here. So again, part cooling is fan 0. Fan 1 is our hot end fan, and then so that plugs in there. So what else? What other cables have we got? So we've got our thermistor for our hot end, so we can plug that in. We then also have our extruder motor, so we can plug this in. And this doesn't, again, these connectors are basically mirrored, so we can just plug one end of this into here. And then the rest of the connectors are NeoPixels, so you can actually connect multiple strips to this board, which then come back. We're not doing that though, so all these wires are the ones that we actually need connected to this board. So we'll get rid of this for a second. And what we'll do is we'll just try and get these cables a little bit more managed in our cable management area. So let's try and keep fans together. And this is obviously our hot end. So this is actually going to be sort of up this end. So we'll put that out here. This might be a little bit difficult actually, thinking about it. Maybe what we'll do is we'll get the control board in first, and then we can actually plug stuff straight in. So the way that the control board and the Raspberry Pi fit in, I'll just grab those. So the V0.2 has, basically you could call these printable DIN rails. And then the tool board, or the control board, has a DIN rail mount. So what we'll basically be doing is putting this in here on this mount. So what I think will probably be the best way is to actually mount the mount to the back. And we'll just sort of try and get that roughly in the middle, like that. And then what we can do is, when I remove the tape, obviously, we can then put this in here, and then that will be stuck down and connected at the same time. So we need to have room to get to this connector at the top here, and this connector at the top is what basically pushes in and releases the thing. So this might be a little bit difficult, but we'll try and do it in one go. Sort of try and decide where we want this board. Now it does add quite a bit of height to the control board. Yeah, I don't know if that looks a bit too high, but that is what it is. So where do we want this? Let's have a look on the wiring diagram, see if that gives us a bit of a better indication. So we can see the provided diagram from Fysetc shows us putting the board in on this side. If we're looking at, it's going to be a bit flipped for you, but for me it's the right way around. And I'm just sort of trying to see if there's any best way to put it in, because I know we have a USB cable that's got to go in to the board itself, but they actually provide a right angled connector, but it might be worth plugging that in as well to make sure we've got enough room to plug it in and take it out. So I think there would be probably our best bet, and I'll try and keep the board in line with the side of this extrusion, and maybe go a little bit up. So I think we'll go about there. So what we'll do is we'll take now the tape off our DIN rail mount and try and stick this board in. Again, this tape doesn't like coming off. Maybe I've better luck with the tweezers. There we go. So let's take that bit of tape off. Try and stick this board in without messing up. Make sure we've got nothing underneath. And as I said, sort of try and keep this in line with the extrusion. We'll go about there. I'm just going to try and put a bit of pressure on. Hello Killer Prince, happy Sunday to you too. Just going to try and put a bit of pressure on there, and also we can now unclip that, because we know it should fit, hopefully, and we'll just push this DIN rail clip down, and then hopefully what we'll be able to do is push that in, and then you should hopefully about hear it click. Well, I can hear it click. So that's our control board mounted. So what we'll try and do now is clear up a bit of these wires before we put the Raspberry Pi in. And the Raspberry Pi is basically the same method. We have the clip that goes on the back of the Raspberry Pi, and the clip gets stuck to the back of the printer. So let's try and wire a few of these things in and sort of try and keep a bit of order to it. So I think what we'll do first is we'll wire in the hot end heater. Those were those first wires that I got through. And although the hot end is essentially just a resistor, it doesn't have a polarity, we will try and, probably should have undone these prior to sticking the board in, but so I actually added some colour, just some red, to the top of the screw, so I know what's positive and what's negative. I'll just undo all of these wires, or these screws rather. These ones should have already been undone. So we can basically start wiring things in. I think that's gonna, I don't think that connector is gonna go anywhere. So this is our hot end heater. So this will plug into these terminals here. And we'll just put them in lightly for now, and then I'll tighten them down in a second. And then what we'll have to obviously do is get these wires to go out of the board, and then we'll put the top on. So we'll see that in a second. I probably should have done that first, because we might run into a little bit of an issue, because this seems to be higher up than the stock one, but we should be okay. So let's also do our motor first. So this is our B motor, and if we refer to our picture, our documentation, that we know that our B motor goes into what is effectively the X stepper driver. So this will go into this connector here. And wire management is always one of those things that can basically take as long as you want it to take. You can either do it in 5 minutes, or you can spend hours just to try and make it look nice. So let's plug in some fans. So fan 0, which is our part cooling fans, that goes in this top connector here. And again, we'll sort of have to get these cables out of the way as we go. We'll plug our next lot of fans in, which is fan 1, and that's our hot end cooling fan. So that goes in there. And then obviously we have this fan as well. So this fan is sort of our electronics cooling fan. And this goes into that last fan connection. So that's fan 2. So all these wires are basically going to go in here, out of the way. So yeah, let me take a little drink. So we won't sort of be doing any setup today. We'll just be doing the wiring. I've sort of gone a little bit away from the manual, but we can get these installed. So this is our hot end thermistor. So that goes in T0, I believe. Yep. Just plugs in there like that. So what I might actually have to start doing is sort of cable tying some of these wires down. And there's actually holes in the printed part. So if I just grab the box here, we've got plenty of zip ties that come with it. Yeah. So let's perhaps look at cable tying some things down, just to sort of keep it under control. And I want to try and keep things together if I can. So fans will keep together, etc. So we might try and utilize this first hole at the top here. Now these aren't the strongest of cable ties. That's the only issue when you're trying to get a cable tie to follow a path. If it hasn't got a very strong end, it doesn't always like to go through the hole. So what we might have to do is cut the end off a bit on one of the slightly thicker parts, like that. And then let's try that again. There we go. So we'll try and keep these out of the top here. And I might put the hot end wires over this side. So yeah, this will probably be a little bit of a task just to wire all these up. But we should be good to go. Yeah, that helps a lot if you cut the end of the cable tie just to make it a little bit stiffer. Let's try and move some of these out of the way for a second. Cut these cable ties as well. So what should we do here? Let's try and keep this motor cable a little bit managed. Or let's put right, so I'm just going to undo these power cables so I can put them under, or put some other cables under over the top of them. So let's, I think what we'll do is we'll come out here for these fans. So let's put a cable tie in there. Into this zip tie mount just here. That was the wrong way around. Let's try that again. There we go. So yeah, this is basically what we're going to have to do now for the next little while, and make sure that we can get those out of one of the exit points. So I think we'll try and go out of that one. That does put a bit of a, so we'll probably aim for that one actually. So that's that one fine. Try and cut that off, and let's try and do this other fan as well. We can go and maybe get that out of the same hole. So again, we cut our cable tie. Yep, so we'll try and use this hole here. Hopefully we'll have enough mounting points for all of the wires that we've got to manage. I think that should be fine, because that can go in there like that. So I'm just going to unplug this motor cable so I can move that out of the way. Trying to do too many wires at once here, I think. We'll concentrate on the umbilical mod wires first, so we can put this power cable back in, or the hot end wire I should say. So yeah, that gets those in there, and they will sort of poke out hopefully over here somewhere like that. So we can then do this thermistor. So I think what I'm going to do is unplug that and then slip it behind these. And then plug it back in. And then find a good route for it to go down. So we might be able to use that middle one there. Yeah, I think that'll work. Obviously remembering we've got other cables to get in here as well, so we may want to leave some cables just resting if they're not going to be in too much of the way. But I think I will just try and get this one in somewhere. Maybe there. Yeah. Well, what we could also do is perhaps combine some other ones. So our T2 on the board here, which is actually going to be our chamber thermistor, because that's not on the wiring diagram, I'll just put that in the end there. But we could perhaps include that with the other thermistor so that they're all together. Let's try and go in this hole here. Now I did purposely sort of leave some of these a little bit long because I didn't know wire lengths when I sort of created the cable. So I think we'll go with it to be quite long, but it should be fine. And then this other one is going to be our LEDs, our sequin LEDs. So we'll try and route that somewhere as well. So this, I'm hoping, I have to stand up for this so I can see the board myself. Yeah, so this is going to be coming down here and go to what is the BL Touch connection. So that's going to go there, hopefully. So because we want to get these out roughly all together, let's put a cable tie here, then that will hold all of those ones out of the way. Yeah, so again we do the same thing, just poke the cable tie through the hole. Make sure we get all of the wires in the cable tie that we want. And then just zip it up. So yeah, so that's looking a lot neater. So let's try and do some motor cables now as well. What I might do actually first is put our main power cable up. I'll just get the other motor cable out as well. So yeah, this is going to be our cable that we end up plugging into the power supply. So let's try and get that up at this point as well, because that's got to go all the way up here basically into this hole, and this should be quite easy just to manage because it's a relatively stiff cable. So that will go into these connectors at the end here, making sure we obviously get our polarity right again. And again, I'll give these a proper sort of crimp down a bit later. Let's get our USB cable out of the way for a second. So this is going to come down and go this way, so that's fine. That cable will sort of manage itself. And I'll just give these a little pinch up. Like that. So I won't connect the power supply end just yet. We'll do that when I show you wiring the mains cable in. So here we've got our extruder cable. So what's going to be the best way to manage this? We'll take it under there to start with, and then we'll probably pop out here, and then this will go in up here, just like that. And then I think I will plug that, or cable tie that. Shall I? No, I think that'll be okay actually. That should be fine. So let's get our other motor cables in. So these sort of are going to go into the wire track and then immediately out. So what we want to do is sort of get as much of the cable sort of managed as we can first, if we can. There's not an awful lot of room in this management track, but we'll do the best we can. So we'll get that one in there. This is our B, so that's our, goes in our X connector, like that. And I'm just trying to see if there's a good place to cable tie this. There is a spare one in the middle there, so I think that's the one we'll go with. So if you are joining the stream a bit later, I did actually start late because I was having some technical issues, but I think we're okay at the moment. Hopefully, I'm sort of trying to keep an eye on the connection, make sure we are still connected, and I think we are. So basically what this stream is going to be is just basically getting the wiring done, and we'll see if I have time to do anything else. So what I'm going to do, I think, is try and get both motor cables together, or as best I can, under the one zip tie. Might actually be able to get all of the motor cables under it there, and then these will come out together. Hopefully something a bit like that. So let's plug that in as well. So that's our A motor, which is our effectively Y motor. We're going to come out there, I think, or the next one up. So yeah, that's probably as neat as we can get it, and that looks quite messy on there, but if you think there's going to be a cover basically going down the middle, I'm hoping it won't be as messy as it looks. But we'll see. So these are all basically going to sit out of the way. We'll have to decide what we're going to do with our main cable. That might have to do something like that, so it comes out, and then yeah, Perhaps there's not as much room as I thought there was, but we'll see. Hopefully this will be okay. These are obviously all in, so they're fine. That is fine. So we have also got to bring up our wires from the heated bed. So we'll try and do these in an orderly fashion as well. So the first one we've got is our bed thermistor. And we'll try again to get this out the same way. I'm just going to get this power cable out of the way for a second. We'll deal with that in a bit. Yeah. Just trying to think if I can cable tie these somewhere else. Let me just grab that top and I can sort of give you an idea of what this is going to look like, and indeed how easy it is going to be for us to get this to work. I might have to rethink how we do all of this, because there's not an awful lot of room in here to do all of this, but we'll see. Right, so we've got that plugged in, and I would like to try and keep the thermistors out the same hole if I can, roughly. So that'll come out of there. What I've also actually got that you can't see is a mounting point on the bottom of the printer, and that's good because you basically want to secure wires in a cable chain at both ends of the cable chain, so that they're not so they're not moving around and causing friction. So let me just get a cable tie in here as well, and then I can secure these wires before they come up to the other management. So yeah, something a bit like that basically. And then let's try and make sure we don't get these tangled up. So these are our hotbed, our heated bed wires, so we'll get them plugged in as well. And we'll maybe put them underneath there. They'll go in here. And then let's have a look where we can zip tie them to that last connector there. So this one's been a little bit tricky. Might have to go in from the other side. There we go. So let's get these plugged in. We might have to undo that just a touch. There we go. And this one also. Remembering that we've got to sort of have these come out as well. That's actually going to be the hardest bit, is to get these wires. So these might actually have to come out and be Yeah, this is a little tricky because we don't want to bend the wires too much. Oh, that one's not tightened up. There we go. We might be able to just do it just like that, hopefully. Yeah, we'll try that. So let's try and clip some of these cable ties again. This is the sort of thing that I would probably like to have done off stream, so that I can sort of really take my time and plan where things are going to go. But here we're doing it, so we'll see how we get on. So yeah, thermistor. So let's do that first. So another cable tie. And I might try and keep. So what I've also got to remember is I've got to bring this other cable up as well. And let's make sure I can get that plugged in. So this is our Z end stop. So what I'm actually going to do is go the opposite side. So let's do these first. And then maybe we'll put this down here. Again, probably easier to come from the other side on some of these zip tie holders. There we go. Just holds them down nicely. Let's try and manage this somewhere. Yep, that can go there. Cut this one out first. Making sure I'm not sort of pulling on some wires too much further down. I think we should be okay. And then this one will go roughly here. This is one of our thermistors. And again, we'll sort of try and come out here when if we put the top on. I might have to reconsider how we're actually going to do this now, because there's not as much room as I thought there was when we've got everything in place. So as I said, let's get this so this will be our Z min end stop. and I'll just confirm that is going in. Yep, zoom in. So let's bring that up, and that will go there. Oops, didn't quite push it in hard enough. There we go. And again, I've got some cable management down the bottom here as well. So I think we're going to need to use both an internal one and this one. Oops. That one flew away. So we'll just get that started in there. And what we might also do while we're here is plug in our Z stepper and use that in that cable tie down as well, just to provide a little bit of strain relief for it. Let me just work out if this is going to be long enough to reach. If we go this way, trying to come out of the cable management still. Now we might have to go just straight through with this one. Straight up and then into our Z driver slot, like that. So I would say some of these cables could do with being a little bit longer. So this Z cable is quite short. So what should we do here? That can go around there like that. So let's get that in the cable tie. There we go. Yeah. So let's have a think about how we're going to do this. Potentially this can go up here. Although I'm not sure how comfortable I am with this power cable. Yeah, there's not a lot of space to get this housing, to get this cable duct on and have this power cable. I think everything else should sort of sort itself out, but this power cable is quite a hefty one. So what we might have to do is come down and just go maybe in like that. What I might do is actually undo this for now. See how happy I am with how it looks. So this has actually got, this could go either way round. It's not strict that it goes a certain way round. So this would effectively sort of go on like this. You have to make sure that these cables do go through there. But that could potentially go something like that. But there's just so many wires, and that's obviously excluding the power cable here. Yeah. Not quite sure how we want to do this yet. Maybe we'll get that one to go through there. They will eventually go through there. This fan could come out of this one maybe. Trying to think the best way for this. This might be better off going towards the top. So that does seem to work quite well, like that. And then we'll have to decide what we do with the power cable. I don't really want to run it over the top. Remembering I've got to also get 24 volts up here for this. So what we could do is use this one for 24 volts for the... Let's take these off for now. And then just carry on running these cables, I think. I've just got some cable management to do down here. Make sure that we're not putting too much stress on the wires at any point. I think we're okay. I think everything sort of moves out the way when it needs to. So what should we do next? Let's try and sort out this USB cable. Sort of trying to hold the board because it's still, there we go, so we can feed this through hopefully. This will just maybe help with keeping some of the wires managed as well. Something like that, hopefully. This will plug into our Raspberry Pi in a bit. I mustn't forget to plug in what is effectively our power for a Raspberry Pi either. So that will plug into just on top of the board there. I'll just make sure I've got that the right way around, which I have. So that will lay down into there. We'll sort that out in a second. Let's maybe get the Raspberry Pi mounted so we know where that's going to go. So this is a similar deal with the DIN rail mount. I think we've got plenty of room on this side for the Raspberry Pi, so we'll just put that there. Again, we have to take off our VHB tape. There we go. I'll just stand up so I can see what I'm doing. So again, we haven't got to sort of get this in any particular place. Just going to sort of try and put it in maybe roughly in the middle. So about there. And we'll push down on that. And we can perhaps plug in a USB cable while we're here, just to see where things are going to go. So that could potentially run up there. This will plug in here. So let's make sure we get this the right way around. This is what's going to basically give our Pi power. So these will have to be managed as well. But I think what we'll do is we'll change tack and do our mains input, because that has got to be done. So I can think about how I'm going to do that. So this basically just sits in here, and then it should click in. So this is obviously just about the right size for what we need. Then that just clicks in there, and obviously we've got our power. Now I can't flip this onto the top so you can see this, but basically what I'll be doing, what I'm going to do is wire this in to the power supply, obviously observing our correct connections. So we have our earth connection, which goes on to the correct thing. Just get the screwdriver. Just tighten that up a bit. And then obviously our neutral and live. So blue is neutral, live is brown. So let me just grab a different screwdriver so that we can get a proper tighten on the connector, because these are our mains voltage in. We want to make sure that that's done correctly. There we go. And then this will just basically sit on the, so what I should be able to do is just pick this up and show you what I've just done, but I can't rest it. So I've just basically plugged those into the correct terminals, and then that wire just sits nicely on the bottom there. And there is a cover for that power supply as well. Yeah, I did give up, Richard, because I think I've got a bit of a dodgy internet connection out here. Like, I've got green and red and yellow lights flashing, and for some reason my microphone just decided not to register in the streaming software at all. So I ended up having to sort of disconnect things, turn things off, move stuff around, and because I just want to keep this going, I managed to get it to work, so I decided to then come back and start streaming. But by which time I was already sort of, yeah, it's working now anyway for the time being. So where are we at? So we've basically got most of the wires sort of plugged in. We haven't done our 12 volts yet. Yeah, it is time for an Ethernet, or yeah, it is. That's something I had thought about and tried to do a few times, but I want to sort of move where the router is inside to give me a better cable run. Yeah, what are we going to do with this mains cable? This is getting a little bit, what I should have done is probably put the Pi in first, and then that would have given me space to move the cable trunk. So I have perhaps done this the wrong way round. And I'm not sure really what this little fan is going to do. Let's just run the power in up here anyway. And knowing what I normally do is I'll probably spend some time on this off stream to get things how I want them. Because it is a little difficult sort of streaming and spending the time that's necessary to get this done. Why isn't that? There we go. Yeah, it's just I'm not really happy with how this is gonna to run up here basically. So, but I'm just gonna plug things in for the time being, just so things are on there. I just sacrificed my last Pi for the RatReg 400. Going to have to start using Manta boards and Cinnamon going forward. Maybe have some space too. Yeah, I mean, it looks as if hopefully the can't do any more landlines, which is full. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, it looks like perhaps the stock of Raspberry Pis might be getting a little bit better. I know places like the Pi Hut in the UK and Pi Moroni had a few recently, and Pi Moroni were being a little bit more selective on how many they sold to people and who they sold them to, etc. So yeah. Right, so let's put some other cables in the bottom here. So we've got our basically our ground, or yeah, negative voltage, and I have put that the wrong way around. So positive voltage first into that hole, and then this will hopefully fit down into this connector. Yeah, I will probably have to redo, have another look at this sort of off stream so that I'm happy with it. But that's what we've got here. Jeff Gearing did a view interview interviewing the CEO of Raspberry Pi, which I think is, I can't remember his name now. They were saying they were likely to move to have more Pis very soon. They reckon they are over capacity this year, so it's good news for the Pis. Yeah. Obviously the whole pandemic caused such a delay in chip manufacture that it just it didn't really have a choice on what they could do. Yeah, so we'll sort that out in a bit. Let's stand this up. Yeah, I wish I'd put the Raspberry Pi in first now, and that would have given me a little bit more space to make decisions on cable management, but it is what it is. Yeah, I'm not overly happy with that, to be honest. Where's that top of that thing? Oops. However I end up putting this in, don't think I'm going to be happy with how the main power wire runs. I think this print is a good idea. I could have implemented it a little bit better. That's basically what I'm saying. It does work. It's just that I haven't done it very well. And there's a lot. And the problem with sort of pre-terminated wires, pre-length wires, is that you basically have to just deal with what's left. Whereas if they had just given you a bunch of wire and some labels and the connectors, you could have cut them and put them to the size you wanted. So yeah, there's different ways to go about the same thing, basically, and some ways work better than others. I'm just wondering if I can get into that and just move that fan a bit. Not that I think that this fan near the pie is going to do anything anyway. It's just not in the right place to blow on anything. Yeah. What should we do? Let's perhaps give that let me get the manual open. We could perhaps do a bit of some stuff around with the skirts. So that's all to do with the wiring. Yeah, we could maybe put some skirts on. And we'll probably only stream for a little while longer now, just so I can take some time to think about what I'm going to do with this. And I don't want to put the screen on. That's another wire that I've got to run. So I'll just show you where we're at, basically. So we've got everything in that needs to be in. I'll get that in a good position for you. So we've obviously got our umbilical mod PCB at the top, and we run cables, but they're probably not in the best places at the moment. But that just gives you an idea of basically what you've got to deal with, how many cables you've got to deal with here. Now, of course, I've added an extra 4 by doing the sequin LEDs and the chamber thermistor. But in the grand scheme of things, that's not too bad. So let's perhaps have a look at some skirts that we can put on. So I'll just show you this actually. This is the cover that will go on the power supply. So it's just a printed cover. So once we've finished down there, we can put this cover on and not have to come back to it. We've obviously got the spool holder as well. So the spool holder also is a panel, effectively works as a panel clip as well to hold one of the panels on. But let's have a look at some skirts and work out which skirts we actually need. So I'm guessing that the larger one here, this will be our rear one. Just have a look at the manual, see which way these go round. But it does, yeah, we'll go that way round. I'm just wondering what these 2 bits are. So that sort of interferes with that bit. Let's have a look. Yeah, so we might have to move that fan anyway to get this. That sort of interferes with it a bit. So I'm going to move that now while I can. We should hopefully be able to get in here with... Sorry if you've just got the view of the back of my head. So we'll just undo that slightly. If I can get in there. There we go. So we can move that slightly. And what I actually could do is just disconnect that. Should have done that to start with. So yeah, this is going to go here. So it almost looks like they either want you to put it all the way over this side or much further across the other way. Too far. So yeah, it sort of needs to go there for this to fit on. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Definitely doesn't go that way around. But yeah, so that would fit there. Let's just put this back on. So it is sort of, I don't know what that fan's supposed to be doing, to be honest. It would make more sense to me to have the fan or even the control board on the other side so that the fan is blowing over the drivers. But I guess the pie will get warm as well. So that one would go on there. And we can put that on, I guess. Let's see what screws it wants us to use. They are M3/6. So that should be these ones here. And I wonder what the best method for getting these screws in is. That might help a little bit. There's no cooling at all on the drivers. No, exactly. There's nothing in the Voron design to have cooling on the drivers. You obviously got there's the little heat sinks, but they're not going to do an awful lot. Although this board does have bigger traces on the other side for helping cool the drivers. Okay. So we've got one skirt on. So on a high-speed printer, there's no cooling. Yeah. I mean, depends what you determine as high speed. I mean, obviously the 2.4, you have the fans on the side that are always blowing underneath. Am I going to add a circular hot end to my screen? A circular screen to your hot end? Oh, you know the answer to that. Yeah, so kind of weird. I guess if you wanted to, you could modify the back panel to put a fan on. What else should we add? So they're obviously these two ones with the little accent pieces on. Whoops. They go on the front on either side of the screen. And then basically everything else will be our sides. So, and these ones actually, so the sides screw in from the bottom, if that makes sense. It's really, they don't make it easy to, it kind of would, I don't know how much sense it would make in realistic terms, but having the tool head on limits how you can actually get to stuff, because the nuts for the skirts are in the bottom of the extrusion. If it was standing up, you could line them up and they wouldn't move anywhere. But because of the tool head being on and it sticks above the top of the printer currently, you can't stand it on top. So that's a little bit weird. I would have to make sure. So this would be on this side. This would be the other one to that, I guess. Yeah. So that's one side. And then we've got those that are on the other side. It's coming up to 3:30. I think I'm probably going to call it a day. The whole starting the stream late has thrown me a bit, and I'm not entirely happy with how this looks. There's got to be a better way of managing these cables. So, I think we will probably have to come back at a later time. So, if anyone's got any questions before we wrap it up, then feel free to post them now. Otherwise, we will reconvene next Sunday. I hopefully will not have any technical issues. Even if I have to run a 50-meter Ethernet cable, I will perhaps look at doing that so that we get a much better thing. How many more streams? To be honest, I was hoping to get more done today. I'm just honestly just not really feeling it at the moment. So had I managed to get more done today, I was hoping next week we'd power on and actually do a print. So what I may do, I'm probably going to relook at this off stream during the week. I may put skirts on because they're not, you know, it's nothing that interesting. And then next stream we may get the panels on, get the top hat on and power on, and then one more after that. So maybe two. I would have hoped to have only been one, but maybe two at this point. Yeah, any other questions, or shall we call it a day? I don't think I've got anything to show you. Basically everything's ready to go. It's just having the will. And I want to redo this. I've decided I'm not happy with how it looks. So yeah, that's okay, no problem. So yeah, if there's no more questions, then I will probably call it a day. So thanks for coming by. Yeah, Richard's got a question. Go for it. Does the back panel have any vents? No, it's solid. So there's sort of two ways you can go about it. So basically we've got, let me try and sort this out a bit. So these panels are solid panels, as in black and no holes. So this panel with the holes in the corner would be our bottom panel, which you can't see, but there's a bottom panel, which then leaves us with these two panels, which again are black and solid. This panel goes up here, and that's sort of a permanent, that's there all the time. It's not part of the top hat, it's just the top part. Now on the old V0, this back panel was one piece, but on this, on the 0.2, they've effectively made it, and I can't even, like, these cables are all in the way of going on this panel. So they've effectively made it so that you have sort of a split back panel. So you could technically leave that off if you wanted to. Or you could, if you wanted to cut a hole in it and have a mount a fan, you could potentially. But yeah, as it is, it's two solid panels. Yeah, could potentially do that. I originally had thought about leaving this panel off and just having this, so that it was sort of exposed, but yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at all this anyway. I think Adam at Vector 3D did a hinged rear panel on his V0 that or 0.1 that he built. But like I say, because this is now a split panel, would have to probably look at if his models needed a modification to work. But yeah, like a hinged electronics panel might work. It's definitely something we can look into. But yeah, so that's how the back panels would look. So yeah, so I think I'm going to call it a day. It's about 3:30. So thanks for all of you for coming. Sorry it's been a shorter stream. Didn't really feel like I've got much done, because I'm going to probably undo all of this and start again. Yeah, but until next time, thanks for coming, and I'll see you.